Hello, Landbank Apadualing Toastmasters Club. Welcome to our brief discussion on speech writing. Well, pardon my PowerPoint presentation as this one I used during the seminar workshop of the RD Toastmasters Club and also the Jensen Toastmasters Club last year. Nevertheless, what I will be giving you tonight is a quick run through on how to write speeches in the context of Toastmasters International. I could not really say that everything that I will be discussing here could be applicable when you deliver your table topic speeches or your prepared speeches, but maybe you could modify some of the ideas that I'll be presenting here so that you could put it into your context. Well, delivering speeches will really matter depending on your level of confidence and at the same time your knowledge of the content and at the same time the technicalities or the formalities of speech writing. So before we proceed, let me ask you, if you were to evaluate yourself from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, at which level do you think is your level of confidence? Well, for most of you, you might say that it's a perfect 10, maybe because you have been very confident in delivering various speeches at different capacities. But for some of you, you might say that it's somewhere 5 or 6 or 7 because there are still rooms for improvement. Well, regardless of your evaluation for yourself, what matters most is that you acknowledge that there will still be rooms for improvement for you to develop your speech writing skills and your speech delivery skills as well. So here in Toastmasters International, one vital thing is for you to be able to evaluate yourself and at the same time know how to address the various needs in terms of speech writing and speech delivery. So I hope that after this brief talk, you will have that full blast of confidence already to deliver your speeches so that the next time your vice president for education or your president approaches you to deliver a speech, then you will be very ready to share your speech to the club. One common problem in terms of speech delivery is overcoming fear. Well, when I was still starting in Toastmasters, this was really one of my biggest concerns. Because when you overcome your fear, it's really challenging on your part, most especially if you have been the speaker who's too shy to speak in front or to share or deliver a speech in front of a large crowd of people. Developing self confidence in Toastmasters International, most especially when we deliver our speeches, is very, very important. Well, a major obstacle for those on their way to the top is often the fear of public speaking. We should admit that one. Let's say we have been very good in terms of writing speeches, but when we are asked already to deliver our speeches in front, then that is where fear comes in. Well, I should say that your fear is normal because most professional performers and entertainers experience it. Even the most eloquent speakers that we have, not only in the organization, but also outside Toastmasters, have been experiencing this fear or stage anxiety. What's very important here is that you learn how to improve your self confidence so that the next time you expose yourself to speech delivery or public speaking, then it will be easier for you to engage with this kind of scenarios. Now, what's the antidote for fear? Well, I should share that there's only one, and that is positive attitude. First one, if you have the positive attitude, then it will be easier for you to overcome your fear of the audience. It is in the unfamiliarity of the people in front of us that we get to be very fearful when it comes to speech delivery. For example, when Landbang Apodwaling Toastmasters Club holds a meeting, and then let's say suddenly there are 2 or 3 guests entering the online meeting, and then you, the prepared speaker, you suddenly feel that you are nervous about delivering your speech. Maybe because you are unfamiliar with these people who suddenly entered the online meeting. Well, if you only have the positive attitude, I think it's easier for you to overcome this fear of the audience. Same goes when you experience fear of being ridiculed. For example, prior to speech delivery, you have this notion in your mind that what if the audience will laugh at me? Or what if audience will judge me based on my grammatical competence? These are the common problems when it comes to fear of being ridiculed. Or what if you have this fear of saying unworthy? What if people will not be interested about your life stories? What if your fellow Toastmasters would not be very captivated with how you deliver your speech? Or it could also be fear of boring the audience. Well, one thing that you really don't want experience during your speech delivery is when you witness your audience members not paying attention to you when delivering a speech. Well, this has been a common dilemma, most especially in online meetings, because definitely you could not see the reactions of some participants of the online meeting. Some could simply turn their cameras off and then not listen to your entire speech delivery. And this may somehow also affect your enthusiasm when delivering your speech. So, all you have to do is to have that kind of mentality where positive attitude overflows. Well, lapses, flaws, these are all normal when delivering speeches. What matters most is that you know how to conquer your fear, and at the same time, you know how to inject this positive attitude in your mind that you can actually do impossible things. And one of this is having an excellent speech delivery. Now, how mental attitudes are formed? Fellow Toastmasters, attitudes are formed out of your past experiences and have much to do with our beliefs and feelings. For example, if before we already had a traumatic experience delivering a speech, then most likely the next time we deliver a speech, we would also feel traumatic about the experience. So, what's very important here is that you create a mental attitude that can formulate also positive vibes for the present experiences and maybe let go of the past experiences and make it as a learning opportunity for you to improve as a public speaker. An attitude is a subconscious reaction to a situation. It determines how we will react in a given set of circumstances. An attitude can be favorable, for example, I enjoy public speaking, or it could also be negative, I can't stand it. For example, when your vice president for education asks you to deliver a prepared speech, and then all of a sudden your mind tells you that you're not prepared or you're not that capable of writing a speech given a short period of time. If you have that kind of negative attitude, then I'm telling you, you would not really have that courage to deliver a speech anytime yourself wants to deliver one, or if your vice president for education asks you to deliver one. Here in Toastmasters, we need to be very ready, although we say that our learning pacing here is also self-paced. We don't really force our members to deliver a speech whenever they are not ready. However, the gist here is that we should be ready at all times because that is how we are built or crafted here in Toastmasters. Whenever we are asked to do an impromptu speech, whenever we are asked to deliver a prepared speech, even if you have just a short period of time to prepare, then you have to grab the opportunity because every opportunity is definitely a learning experience. But of course, you need to prepare very well in order for you to at least give your best when delivering these speeches. So the key here is having that positive attitude and, of course, making sure that all the time you think only of what is possible or you think only of what is positive so that you can really be able to pull it off when delivering speeches. Always remember, attitudes reflect self-esteem as well. Another dilemma is when we talk about comfort zone. For example, you're asked to deliver a 5 to 7 minute speech. However, it's not within your comfort zone, so you choose not to deliver speeches. While we also have members in the organization who are fonder of leadership roles than public speaking activities. These are people who are more into leadership than delivering speeches like that. But in Toastmasters, we need to unlock these things and make sure that we go out of our comfort zone. Our comfort zone definitely corresponds with the self-image that we have. So if our comfort zone is as small as this, then that means that our self-image or our self-esteem is as small as this as well. But if our comfort zone is as wide as this, and we learn how to get out of the comfort zone most of the time, then that means most of the time you also have the positive self-image telling us that everything is possible if I want to. Okay? Comfort zone would also suggest that performing outside this comfort zone causes anxiety and stress. That's very true. It is very stressful on your end if you deliver a speech and if you are not prepared for, if you have not prepared for, let's say, at least 2 or 3 weeks, because your comfort zone tells you that you need to prepare for over a month before you deliver a speech. That's normal. Your comfort zone is also your, it's like your bodily thermostat. Okay, it also regulates our behavior. So the more that we go out of our comfort zone, the more that we challenge ourselves to grow and enhance, not only as a leader but also a public speaker here in Toastmasters International. Now it's like a cycle. Your present thoughts determine your success. If we have increased performance, which stimulates more positive talk, we also have more positive self-talk, affirmations, and visualizations. And then, as a consequence or as an effect, we have high self-image or beliefs. And if we have high self-image or beliefs, then we have, again, increased performance. Okay? It's also the same when we deliver. To put this into context, when we deliver our speeches, the more that we have that positive self-talk, the more that we tell ourselves that kaya mo yan, that we can do this, no matter what, this is a learning experience, the more that we have high self-image, the more that we have strengthened our beliefs, and then because of that, the more that we have increased performance. So whenever we deliver our speeches, then it's just a piece of cake for us. It's easier. We have minimal nervousness when delivering our speeches. So we have to, again, make sure to have that positive attitude so that we could conquer our fears in speech writing and speech delivery. So this time, let's proceed to speech writing preparations. What are the different things that we need to prepare or consider when writing speeches? First one, consider listener retention. The typical listener will remember only about 10% of a presentation 1 week after hearing what was presented. So within half an hour, the average listener will forget 40% of what was said. By the end of the day, 60% will be forgotten. Now, since here in Toastmasters, or with the current situation that we have, we meet during evening, I think by the time that we sleep, by the time that we wake up, we will have forgotten already all of those things that a public speaker or a fellow Toastmaster delivered in his or her speech. Okay? So an experienced speaker will have to design his or her presentation to increase retention by first one. You can use repetition. The more frequently a message is heard, the more likely it is to be remembered. Well, employing repetition in your speeches will help if you know how to strategically inject these repetitions in your speeches. For example, you can make it as your introduction, or you can make it as your conclusion. You could also engage your audience by repeating after you, repeating the statement over and over so that the audience will really remember that mark, that the moment they let's say, reminisce your speech delivery, they could say, this was the speech when we were asked to repeat this statement, like that. It's also one good way for you to attract the attention of your listeners. Second one is proximity. The more recently a message is heard, the better it will be remembered. Well, that's true. Third one, we also have impression. The greater the impression or emotional impact upon the listener, the longer the message will be remembered. I am not trying to say that whenever you deliver your speeches, you really have to make it a goal to make your audience cry or be sentimental about your speeches. It's not like that. Well, it's good that you leave a positive impression to your audience. Make them connect with you. So when you deliver a speech, make sure that they can easily relate with your contents, even if both of you have different experiences or gravity of this seriousness in terms of problems in life or whatsoever. The key here is to make sure that you learn how to connect with your audience. The question is how. Later on, I'll give some inputs on how you could connect well with your audience. And of course, make it simple. A single presentation is easy to understand. Avoid highfalutin words, avoid complex statements, because at the end of the day, the very goal that we have here, why we deliver speeches, is to make sure that we are understood, that we are felt by the audience. So it's very important to have that way. Now, we have 7 steps in preparing an effective speech. Step 1 is to establish objectives for the presentation. Step 2 is to analyze your audience. Step 3 is to prepare a presentation plan. Step 4 is to select resource material. Step 5 is to organize your material, then followed by practicing the presentation, and lastly is to prepare a backup plan. So for example, if you experience some problems when delivering your speeches, then you should have a backup plan. Let's go over each of these steps. Let's start with step 1, establishing objectives for the presentation. Before you write your speech, you need to ask yourself this question: why is there a need for you to give a presentation? Or do not ask this question that why am or what am I going to put into it? Okay, so maybe you could start with the very reason or the very rationale of your speech delivery. Well, you can always go back to the speech objectives, okay, of your speech delivery. However, if you've already identified the speech objectives and then you still have some dilemmas on the very reason why you need to deliver a speech, then you could identify certain reasons why you need to deliver this kind of speech. Okay? Most presentation goals will consist of one or more of the following. For example, to inform, to simply educate, to motivate. Most of the time in Toastmasters, we deliver a speech to motivate or to inspire, to create action, to entertain, or to celebrate something. To celebrate or to entertain, definitely these goals are achieved for the specialty speeches, which you will also be delivering in your pathways, depending on the path that you have taken. So when you establish your goal, you have to decide what will be the measure of a successful presentation. You must establish what the desired end result will be. It must be, of course, realistic and achievable. So when you have already set your mind that this is going to be the very reason why I need to deliver this speech, or why I feel the urgency, I feel the necessity to deliver this speech to your audience, then you need to make sure that the goal is also realistic and achievable. Okay? So reassess, reevaluate if everything is realistic or achievable given the speech project that you have prepared for. The second step is to analyze your audience. But this has been very difficult in the context of Toastmasters International because sometimes we need to be very flexible when it comes to audience analysis. Remember that not all attendees during our online meetings are Toastmasters. There are also guests. So you need to consider them as well on how you could connect well with these people because they're also part of your audience. Identify the specific audience in terms of knowledge, attitudes, likes, and dislikes as a guide to determine which facts and approach are most likely to be effective in achieving your objectives. For example, let's say you are a doctor and then you deliver a speech in front of your Toastmasters International Club, and then this club is composed of diverse professions. And then you deliver a speech about health, and then you use all the medical terms that you know to impress the audience. Well, definitely, in that case, your audience cannot connect well with you. They may be able to understand the context, but not definitely the language used. So maybe you could simplify the language that even if the topic or the subject at hand is quite difficult to comprehend at their level, well, at least with the language usage, you are making it simple for them to understand everything. So to ensure success with any audience, you must design your presentation to give them the following messages. First one, I will not waste your time. Audiences get upset when they sense their time is being wasted. And then you also need to say, I know who you are. A speaker must address the audience's needs and interests. I am well organized. The message must be clear and easily understood. I know my subject. Audiences want speakers who possess high levels of expertise and speak with authority. Here is my most important point. It is the speaker's responsibility to make the audience understand why they are there. And I am finished. The speaker must bring it all together and provide a solid finish, or the audience will feel cheated. This is not yet the idealistic format when delivering speeches, but this will help you be guided in terms of what needs to be included in your speech delivery. Okay? So you have to consider always the audience, because at the end of the day, it's your audience who should be evaluating you and telling you if your speech delivery was effective or not. Step 3 is to prepare a presentation plan. Of course, the presentation plan here refers to your blueprint. So you may refer to the outline of speech based on pathways. Okay, so there's an outline prepared for you. So you just have to download it, read everything so that you will be guided what need to be included in your speech. It serves as a guide. It is not designed to be a speaking outline, but a conceptual approach to what will most logically lead you to accomplish your objectives. So if you feel like preparing outlines as well when delivering speeches, that's okay. So in the context of online delivery, speech delivery, maybe you could make post-its on your screen, post them so that even if you're delivering your speech, it's as if you're still looking at the camera and then you're just glancing at your copy. But if it is already higher levels of speech delivery, then I highly suggest to memorize the speech, or if not, deliver an impromptu speech depending on which fits you as a public speaker. Because in my context, I am not really good at memorizing, so I would rather deliver everything impromptu, even if it's a prepared speech. But it depends on your case. So if you're into memorization, then you can memorize everything. But if you are not fond of memorizing, then you can prepare outlines, conceptual outlines to help you guide you during your speech delivery. Step 4 is to select resource material. Now, there's no magic formula that will guarantee proper selection, but here are some common sense questions that may help. First one, what's the purpose of the speech? So going back, you need to review your purpose, why you need to deliver the speech. What should be covered? What should be the contents of your speech? Or if you're done writing your speech, then you have to review what things need to be eliminated given time constraints, or given how long the speech material will be. Okay? And then what amount of details is necessary? Sometimes you need to evaluate as well if your body of the speech already contains all of the information that you need to share, because sometimes we have a tendency to make our introduction longer than the body or the conclusion of our speech. So you need to consider also the amount of details. What must be said if the objectives are to be reached? Okay? What is the best way to say it? So it's the manner. Should it be humorous? Should it be informative? Should it be plain and simple? It depends on your style. What kind of audience reaction or response is required if the objectives are to be met? So is it your goal to make your audience cry, or is it your goal to make them laugh, to be entertained, to be informed, to be educated? So you need to consider all of this when selecting your resource material. Your resource material here refers to your speech already. Okay? If not the speech outline, it's already your final draft of the speech ready for the speech delivery. Now, step 5 is to organize your material. Now, this represents the outline which incorporates selected materials into a format that will fit your style. Well, in Toastmasters International, you know that we have various formats that we can use not only in table topics, but also in prepared speeches. So here, you have to make sure that the format that you will be using will fit your style, will meet the objectives, and of course, satisfy the needs of the audience. The 3 distinct parts of well-organized speech are the following. So this is the basic format. So we have the IDC pattern. You start with the introduction, tell them what you're going to tell them. Okay, the purpose here is to sell the audience on listening to the presentation and introduce the subject or purpose of the presentation. So the introduction here is very crucial because it is where you will catch or captivate the attention of your audience. If you fail at this stage, then definitely your audience members will not listen anymore towards the end of your speech. So you have to make sure that the momentum is sustained. So you have to start very, very well when delivering your speech. Make a strong introduction so that you can really catch their attention. Tell them for the body. Develop and support your idea with the selected material, so the body should follow the main ideas listed in the plan and interpret them meaningfully for the audience. Okay, so since you have already prepared an outline or maybe your final draft of the speech, then you have to stick with it. Okay, there might be some changes during the speech delivery, but that's okay, as long as it's not a total overhaul of your speech, because that might be chaotic when you deliver your speech. That might be a dilemma or problematic when you're in. And you need to handle the audience's reaction during your speech delivery. So you could not really exempt the fact that some of your audience members will not listen to you attentively. Some will just tickle up their phones, chit chat with other members, or in the context of online delivery, some would turn their videos off and then do other things behind the camera like this. So you need to handle audience's reaction very carefully. Okay, make sure that you do not react emotionally to these reactions, because the tendency is that you might lose track of your speech delivery during the actual speech delivery. And then the third portion is the conclusion. You have to tell them what you just told them. So this should be the strongest part of your speech and should provide a summary of the main ideas and appeal directly for action, belief, or understanding. This is where the call to action comes in. Okay, so if you find it very problematic to end your speech with a bang, then you could end it actually with a call to action. Convince your audience what they should do after listening to your speech. Okay, give them a message that you should do this, you should do that. I suggest this, I recommend this, so that the audience will have something to remember out of your speech. It's like challenging them to change their mentality given the speech that you have just delivered. Okay? And of course, you need to review vividly the idea or purpose of the entire speech if you were able to meet all speech project objectives. And of course, it's very important that you practice the presentation. Well, this one comes very problematic for those who love impromptu speeches. For example, in my case, I deliver all my prepared speeches impromptu. So I really do not practice except for the preparation of the outline. So when I already have the outline, maybe I could practice saying the statements for each of the points stated in my outline. That could be my form of practicing. So practice will give you more self-confidence and poise, resulting in the audience being more willing to place credence rather in the subject matter. You have to identify flaws or gaps in the speech. For example, you notice that you have fillers, or you notice that there's this long duration of pause or long pause in somewhere in your speech delivery. So you need to address it prior to speech delivery. And then you also need to provide familiarity with the speech so that the right words come naturally and spontaneously. So how do we practice? First one, you could give the presentation aloud to yourself, self-talk. Or you could also use a recorder, audio, or video. And then you could also give a dry run before peers or fellow members so that these fellow Toastmasters could also give their pieces of advice to you on how you could improve your speech delivery prior to the actual delivery of the speech. And the seventh step will be on the preparing a backup plan. So how do we prepare a backup plan? Prepare a backup plan or preparing this plan is an important step because your presentation may not go as planned. I should say, most especially in the context of online delivery, what if during your speech delivery, you experience some problems with your internet connection? Okay, so what will be your backup plan? So you need to strategize. Depending on the type of presentation you are giving, some problems you may encounter are the following. Visual aids problem. For example, your PowerPoint presentation does not work. Okay, or here in the online delivery, you have a PowerPoint presentation, but it couldn't be shared. Okay, or your audience could not see the PowerPoint presentation that you just shared on the screen. Second one, audiovisual equipment failure. You also have facilities power failure. For example, during the middle of your, or in the middle of your speech delivery, you experience power outage or intermittent internet connection. So that could be a problem as well. Unexpected interruptions, for example, in the middle of your speech delivery, suddenly someone accidentally unmuted his or her microphone, and then all the noise comes into play. So you need to deal with this gracefully, okay? And then another problem could be losing train of thoughts. Yung tinatawag nating mental block. So how do we address this one? So you need to practice and make sure that you familiarize well all the contents of your speech. Okay? This time, let's go to organizing the presentation. It's more in the format now, so I hope you get some ideas here on how you could craft your speech so that the time comes when you deliver your speech or you will be asked to deliver a speech, then it will be easier for you to write your speeches. Now, when you write your opening statement, make sure that you catch the attention of your audience. Attention is a prerequisite to communication. So the more audience attention you can get, the more communicating you can accomplish. So it depends on your style as to how you could start your attention grabbing introduction. So the opening must be designed to catch immediate attention. So it should arouse the audience's interest in your topic and alert them to the theme of your speech. So these are good examples of an opening. First one, you could start it with a starting question or a challenging statement. Okay, because usually the challenge is given at the end or the conclusion part of your speech, but you can actually include that one as part of your introduction. You could also use an appropriate quotation, illustration, or story. You could also use a display of some appropriate object or picture. So in the case of online speech delivery, then this one is very practicable. You can just share screen something before you deliver your speech. Or you could also make a generalization that focuses attention and ties in with your subject. Always remember, your introduction should set the tone or the atmosphere of your speech delivery. Well, if your introduction is kind of boring, then definitely your audience members will be bored all throughout your speech delivery. So you need to make sure that your your introduction is really attention grabbing, because dito nakasalalay po ang ating audience interest in the entirety of the speech delivery. Avoid the following weaknesses. First one, do not start your speech with an apologetic statement. When you make apologies, for example, before I start, disclaimer, I'm sorry, I have not prepared well for this speech. I am very sorry, but I will try my very best. But in Toastmasters, we don't apologize. Even if we have not prepared very well, but actually, you should prepare well. But given some instances, well, do not apologize if you have not prepared or if you think that you are not good enough as a speaker. Do not do that one in our club, even in other public speaking scenarios, because that's very unlikely of you as a Toastmaster. Second one, do not start it with a story that does not relate to your topic. For example, you start it by saying, before I start my speech, allow me to segue this one. Just a while ago, on my way to blah, 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 do not do that one, okay? Remember that you're time-bounded, and so you need to utilize your time wisely. Third one, a commonplace observation delivered in a commonplace manner. And then, a long or slow-moving statement. It could also be something that it's something that you should always avoid. Okay, a long or slow-moving statement. It's like when you deliver a speech and then you intentionally deliver it in a slow pace or in a fast pace that's not really relevant. Okay, and a trite question such as, "Have you ever thought about?" This is a trite question. Okay, when you say trite question, it's somewhat like a redundant question. It's already a preformative question at the beginning of your speech. So avoid saying it, "Have you ever thought about?" or "What do you think about?" Statements like this need to be avoided as your introduction because they do not actually grab the attention of your audience. These statements are just basic. Now, for the body, you need to support your purpose. Okay? The body of your presentation contains the factual support for your purpose. The amount of information you can include in the body will be limited by the amount of time available. So the body can include a research, proof, evidence, fact, figure, statistic, definition, example, illustration, anecdote, authority, or analogy. Okay? So these are the things that you need to remember. You can incorporate them in the body part of your speech. But the contents of your body will definitely depend on the nature of your speech. Okay? It will depend on the nature of your speech. And then the third one is the conclusion. Bring it all together. You need to wrap up everything. The conclusion of your presentation is the climax, the destination at which you hope to leave your audience. This is where your speech should produce results. It should always tie in with your opening and should leave no doubt about what you want your audience to do with the information. So that means your audience members should have a clear understanding on what they should do given the things that you have just shared in your speech delivery. Finish forcefully and with confidence. Make it remarkable. A weak, inconclusive, apologetic closing will kill even the best presentation. Okay? So if you have started strong, then you have to end stronger when delivering speeches. Examples of good closings are a summary of the points you have made and the conclusions to be drawn from them, a specific appeal for action or call to action, or a story, quotation, or illustration that emphasizes your point. But be careful with sharing a story. Please do not overshare as it is already your conclusion. Okay, this time let's go to the organization styles. I'll introduce to you some speech patterns that might be useful. So here are several general patterns which you can use in arranging your material. First one, you may consider time or sequence. Events are presented in the sequence in which they occur. The chronological sequence gives a specific time context to the event. Now, this one is very applicable when you are narrating stories. Okay, you can consider the time sequence pattern so that you know how to chronologically sequence your events in the story that you will be sharing in your speech. Second pattern is the topical pattern. This pattern assigns meaningful labels to subtopics related to the general topic. So when you deliver it, it's like you have one major topic and then you have subtopics to present. But please make sure that your major topics are limited in a topical pattern, because the risk here is when you go over time in your speech delivery, then you might be asked to redeliver your speech for time purposes. Okay? But this one is very good when you would like to organize your items or your speech contents very accurately, most especially for those that really need strategic organization when it comes to speech contents. You could also have question and answer pattern. So the presenter will ask a question or questions and then systematically provide the answer or answers. This may also be very strategic when, for example, you really want to be guided with the flow of your speech. So you ask a question, and then you answer it, and then you ask another question, and then you answer it. Okay? And then maybe you end it with a conclusion that's still a question, but it will be unanswered. And so you're leaving the responsibility now to your audience for them to answer the last question as part of your conclusion. So just be creative or innovative with how you ask questions so that it will appear like a guide on how you could deliver your speech systematically. You could also have the problem and solution. So this pattern is commonly used in business and technical presentations where the speaker identifies a problem and then states what needs to be done to solve it. Now, this one is very applicable if your path is presentation mastery. Okay, I should say that one because I have used this pattern several times when I delivered my speeches in my presentation mastery path. You may state the symptoms of the problem to the audience to gain credibility that a problem exists, and then you identify the real problem for analysis, you share about it, and then you provide solutions, including constraints of the solution, and then you recommend the best solution. So if you notice, it's very structured. It's very structured. I don't really suggest this one for speakers who deliver impromptu speeches because you might have some problems structuring it given that it's very technical. Okay, as what was mentioned a while ago, this one is highly used for business and technical presentations. Another pattern that you could use is contrast and comparison. So you compare and contrast certain entities in your speech delivery. Here, the speaker's plan is to call the audience's attention to differences or similarities in order to get them to evaluate alternative ideas or plans. So for example, if you would like to deliver a speech on your mental health amid this COVID pandemic, okay, so you could have compare, contrast, before and now, the things that you're experiencing as regards mental health. Okay, and of course, you can have a hybrid speech pattern by combining any of these patterns that I mentioned. And we have now the very familiar one in Toastmasters. We have the AIDA outline. This approach is often taught to salespeople, and it can be applied to anything you're selling, whether ideas, objects, or actions. Now, this one is very powerful because you're selling your ideas or stories to your audience. So you can start with winning the attention of your audience. Grab their attention first. Now, I have already introduced to you some ways or strategies on how you could introduce or start your speech. Well, you could use any of them. Just make sure that in the initial part or the preliminary portion of your speech delivery, you know how to win the attention of your audience members. Second one is to arouse the interest of your audience. Okay? Tickle their minds. How could the speech delivery that you will be making be connected with their own life experiences like that? And then D stands for creating the desire. Okay, the desire here would refer to after your speech delivery, what will be desired by your audience, having listened to the entire contents of your speech. Okay, and lastly, stimulate action or agreement. This is where the call to action comes in. So you challenge them, given that they have already the attention, they already have the interest, and that they already have the desire to change their own after listening to your speech. Okay, so that is the AIDA pattern. We also have the board and listeners' reactions. This one is really used in Toastmasters, but in the public speaking seminars that I have conducted, I asked some of my participants to use this pattern. This approach was designed by Richard Borden, a speech professor at New York University. It has 4 steps, and these are, first one, ho-hum. This corresponds to your introduction. So it's like, like that, and then you grab the attention of your audience, okay? And the second one, you ask the question, why bring that up? You must build a bridge to carry the audience, show that your subject is important, and relate it directly to the interests of your listeners. And then third one, for instance, you give concrete examples. Okay, so first one, you grab the attention of your audience. Then second one, you share the rationale or the reason why you need to bring that up. Third one, you provide examples. And then lastly, so what? This is the call for action. Okay, after you have already shared the reason why you need to share such a speech, and then the examples for the for the experiences that you have shared there, maybe in your speech, what now? Okay, so this is the call for action. You have to tell the audience what they want, what you want them to do as a result of your presentation. So you have to be specific and you need to finish forcefully, as mentioned a while ago. You also have the past, present, future outline. So this one is also very effective if you would like to have a chronological presentation of your speech. This fits especially well with a talk on a historical subject or an examination of human development. You could use this outline for a speech on the growth of your business or profession, or the expansion of a business system. The outline might be used in this form. There was a time when, so this is the past portion, but today things have changed. That's the present. And then future, as we look into the future, like that. So you need to reminisce first and then share your current experiences, and then you foresee the future. Okay. For example, if you would like to deliver a speech with regard to your Toastmasters journey, then you can use this one. You start with the past experiences, the current experiences, and the things that you look forward to happening in the future. Okay. And I think this is my last slide. I know I have limited time to share everything, but as much as I would like to engage you in an actual speech writing workshop, I think it's very difficult given the scenario. Nevertheless, I have tried to introduce to you the basic patterns. So if you have questions, well, you can always email me if I won't be able to make it tonight, or if not, then you can ask me personally these questions. Then we have here, lastly, I would like to introduce the 10 keys to writing a speech. This one is from Jeff Schmidt from Forbes magazine. Well, Jeff is also a Toastmasters. It's just that he highlighted these tips that he learned during his entire Toastmasters journey. Okay? The first key to writing a speech is being memorable. When you deliver a speech, my challenge to your fellow Toastmasters is do not deliver a speech that is intended for delivering a speech only. Deliver a speech that is intended to change the lives of your listeners. But I know it's very difficult, but that is how we work in Toastmasters. We craft our speeches to inspire and motivate people. We do not simply write and deliver speeches for the sake of finishing our DPM norm. You need to have a structure as well. Make sure that everything is organized. I already introduced to you the different speech patterns, so you need to have a structure. Third one, do not waste the opening, because as what I mentioned, this has to be the most important portion of your speech. Make sure you captivate the attention of your audience at the beginning of your speech delivery. Strike the right tone. When you say strike the right tone, you need to make sure that you know how to properly or appropriately deliver your speech. And then humanize yourself. Do not be too synthetic. Do not be too robotic when delivering a speech as if you're memorizing everything. Make it natural, make it spontaneous. And I believe this is the best way for you to connect well with your audience. Repeat yourself. So at times you'll be encountering some challenges or difficulties when delivering your speech. But the more that you repeat yourself when it comes to speech delivery, the more that you're polishing your skills in public speaking. Use transitions. Okay, so you have a lot of transitional words or devices that we can use. Furthermore, in addition, moreover, all of this. But remember, stories can also be good transitions. It's just that you have to be very creative and innovative with how you transition from this portion to another portion. You need to include theatrics as well, hand gestures, facial expressions, body movements, use of the 3D space if it's an actual speech delivery. Or if it's an online delivery, use of the frame, the speaking frame. You have to end strong as well. While I love making conclusions because it is where I leave a remark, or leave a mark rather, with the speech that I have just delivered. And then make sure that you keep it short, but Of course, you tailor fit it based on time constraints that you have. And now, fellow Toastmasters, the last tip that I'm going to give you is to use triad. Using triad is very powerful. It makes your speech very powerful. As a matter of fact, several public speakers have been using this structure so that they would be able to really make the audience feel about the contents of their speech. Triad means a three parallel structure in your speech delivery. For example, to perspire, to inspire, and to aspire. If we are to use this one in a speech delivery, maybe we could have a conclusion for this. Let's say, fellow Toastmasters, in life, we experience a lot of challenges. And these challenges might hurt us. These challenges might give us the fuel for us to move on, for us to keep pushing forward for the betterment, not only of ourselves, but also for the people around us. At the end of the day, we must always bear it in our minds that life may be full of challenges, but we always need to perspire, inspire, and aspire. Let's say that's your conclusion. And I think in my case or in my belief, it's strong enough to convince your audience to emotionally connect with them. You can use your triad either as a body or conclusion part. So it depends on your strategy or on your style. Okay? So I hope you learned a lot from this brief talk. I wish I have enough time to share everything that I would like to share for Land Bank Apo Duwaling Toastmasters Club. But I know that this will not be the end of my interaction yet with the club, as I am more than willing to help the club grow and soar higher in their Toastmasters journey. So if you have questions, you can ask me the questions, and I would be very glad to answer them. Thank you very much, and I hope that you will be inspired to deliver your speech and, of course, once again, achieve the distinguished distinction for Landbang Apo Duwaling Toastmasters Club this Toastmasters year. Thank you very much and have a great day.